How do you know you have found the one, your soulmate? My name is Rabbi Wyne of Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, and I want to welcome you to Life is Great, where every week we explore another universal value that is derived from Judaism. Good morning. Last week we were talking about soulmates and how a person knows that you have a soulmate. Everybody has a soulmate. As we always say, there's a top to every pot. The question is, how do you find them? How do you recognize them? Now, something which my rabbis taught me, and in 20 years in the rabbinate, I've been explaining to other people. If you know what you're looking for, you are more likely to find. Many times, a person is out there, they're thinking, gee whiz, I have this kind of nebulous, vague idea of something in my life, and then it could be right in front of them, but they won't recognize it. But when it comes to finding a soulmate, if we're very clear on what a soulmate is and what a soulmate isn't, and more importantly, what your match is, then when you bump into that person, you'll recognize them, and they'll probably hit you slam like a Mack truck. Now, we all know you can go to many different websites, and there are many articles online to tell you what to look for and what not to look for. And I don't claim to have cornered the market on all wisdom regarding soulmates. But what I can do is I can share with you the 3,300 years of Jewish wisdom that can help you identify more quickly and more clearly what exactly you should be looking for. So there are a few different areas, a few different aspects that will comprise who your soulmate is, and I want to stop and look at them. The first one I want to look at is our physical attraction. Now, many people don't think that physical attraction should be part of finding your soulmate, and I'm here to tell you it's a huge part of finding your soulmate, but it is the least complicated aspect of finding your soulmate. Physical attraction is the basis for chemistry. Chemistry is also huge. Physical attraction there can be identified in two parts. The first one is when I look at a person, I have to physically desire to be with them. That's huge. In Judaism, we look at what is holy and what is not holy. We've discussed before how the physical relationship is not only powerful in bringing people together, but we view it as a very, very holy thing. We look at the artifacts that were in the holy temple that stood in Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. And in the middle of that temple, there was a place called the Holy of Holies. And in the Holy of Holies, there was an ark. There was a cabinet which contained the Ten Commandments, an example of the manna that fed the Jewish people as they wandered in the desert for 40 years. And on top of that cabinet, that thing which we refer to as the ark, which was in a place called the Holy of Holies, that was only visited by the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, on Yom Kippur, the holiest man alive, on the holiest day. On top of that was an image of two angels that were embracing each other in a physical hug. And when God was pleased with the Jewish people, they were embraced together. And when God was not pleased with the Jewish people, their wings were turned away from each other. And that was a symbol for eternity to tell us that one should never minimize the concept of physical attraction, but one has to use the aspect of physical intimacy to develop a closer relationship with God. So if you want to find your soulmate, you have to be attracted to them physically. The question is, how attractive do they need to be? Well, there's two aspects. First aspect is you look at them, and you look at a person, you should say, yes, I want to be intimate with that person. The next aspect is you have to look at the person and say, I am comfortable being out in public with this person. And you might think it's a little strange, but in reality, the way we are wired is such that you can be physically attracted to a person, yet a little embarrassed to have them on your side. Or you could be proud to have someone on your side, but there just won't be that chemistry or that desire to be with them. You might look at them and say, I know objectively they're a supermodel, but they don't do anything for me. So when it comes to finding your soulmate, you need both. You need to want to physically be intimate with them, and you also need to be comfortable having them on your side. Once you've determined a person is physically attractive enough, you're done. That person is check mark on that qualification to be your soulmate. The next aspect is something which I will call chemistry. Chemistry basically means I like being with the person. You're comfortable being with the person even if you are not physically intimate. You have to think about this. How many people have you actually spent time with that you say, you know what, I can go for a hike in the Grand Canyon with. I can go spend 3 days with them and just spend time with them and just talk about something or talk about nothing. I'm just comfortable with them. Talking, comfortable not talking. You have to just like the person regardless of anything else. Just enjoy being around them. That's the second qualification for a soulmate. Those are the two easiest ones. Now we're going to get into some deeper ideas. Now, to understand the deeper ideas and to understand what they are, I went out to my favorite coffee bean and I asked some of you what you thought were the identification marks of a soulmate. And again, the purpose of this exercise is when I see my soulmate, I should be able to recognize them. I have to figure out what exactly am I looking for. And we brought up 2 points so far. One is physical attractiveness. The second one is chemistry. Chemistry would refer to I'm just attracted to just kind of being around that person. Let's go to Coffee Bean and see some of the insightful things that you had to say. If you were going to advise someone to find their soulmate, what would you tell them to look for?
Someone they can have fun with.
Okay.
Someone who understands them.
Great.
And someone who's willing to meet them in the middle.
How would you advise them to recognize their soulmate?
I'd have to say that there's just lots of love. Love conquers all for me. Compromise and just enjoying being in each other's company.
Sharon, have you found your soulmate?
Yes.
How could you recognize your soulmate from just a nice guy?
I watched how he treated his mother, and that was it. That dialed me in, made me interested,
Right.
and met him at my 10-year reunion.
Okay.
We grew up 20 minutes from each other, so the familiarity of our lives intersecting
Great.
was, again, just timing. We both had come out of relationships, 6 to 8 years each, and just knew
How
it.
to do it. How to recognize their soulmate. What would you tell them?
Well, first, what I tell everybody is don't force that person to want to be with you or want to like you or want to love you.
Okay.
If it's forced, like the Bachelor deciding to give you a rose, I always tell my 16-year-old daughter he shouldn't have any. Are we getting kicked out? He shouldn't have any question that you're the one. So
right.
never corner him, never make him an ultimatum. He should know that you're it.
Okay,
Yep.
beautiful. All right, wasn't that insightful? I think if we listen to the basic word on the street to answer some of these questions, I think a lot of these questions are really insightful. The answers are obvious to the eye that can see. However, now I want to look at some of the deeper aspects, the more difficult aspects, so to speak, of finding a soulmate. So Amanda, we asked, you said, what was the difference between the person you just liked and you related to and the person you liked and related to that ended up being your soulmate? And it's a difficult line to distinguish. So now I want to share with you some Jewish wisdom to tell you how to make that distinction. So we understand something, that in life, it doesn't just matter what you believe and what you can say. What really matters is what you do. And the Talmud tells us that there are 3 ways, 3 indications about a person's character. They are summed up in Bekiso, Bekaso, Bekoso. What a person does in their pocket, how a person is angry, and what a person does when they are intoxicated, when they drink. Now, the reason the Talmud, the reason Jewish tradition puts it in this format is because these are 3 ways that we can identify a person's character, a person's values, a person's goals. Now, a lot of people can talk a good game. As a matter of fact, I would tell you that if you were to go and have a discussion with someone in order to find out their character, say, listen, I want to find out, is the person a kind person or a loyal person? You know what? There's plenty of smart people out there. They can figure out what to say. I'm reminded that when I was dating my wife, we were in Jerusalem and walking around. Of course, I'd spent at the time over 7 years studying in Jerusalem. And a lot of the times when you're studying, you're talking Hebrew or using Yiddish words. And now I'm speaking with my wife, I'm on a date, and I'm using all sorts of words, Hebrew words, Yiddish words, words that I'm making up. And my wife, she's a smart woman. At the time we were dating, she's smart, she's educated. She said, I want that guy. I'm going to get that guy. So even though I would be using words that she would have no idea what they mean, she'd go, oh yeah, I agree, oh sure. Because when you're in a discussion with someone, if you know how to do it, you can kind of roll around with it. You can play the game a bit. But what really matters is what we do. That's even more important than what we say. So let's go through these 3 actions, and they will give us great insight into what people believe, okay? The first one is kiso, in your pocket. I remember a famous quote by Gloria Steinem in the time that she was very, very influential in the world. So she said, you know a person's values by looking at their check stubs. And isn't that true? Isn't it true that we know what we care about by looking at what we spend our time on and what we spend our money on? Now, of course, time is an absolute non-renewable resource. Okay? No one gets out of this world alive, and the clock is always ticking. So how a person spends their time is very indicative about their values. What a person does with their money also is extremely indicative in terms of what they truly value. As a matter of fact, in Jewish law, if you have someone who is a professional gambler, so one of the interesting laws about a professional gambler is that they are pasul me'edus. They are disqualified from being a witness in a court of law. Doesn't mean they're dishonest. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. But it does mean they're a little out of touch with how the rest of the world makes money. People wake up, they go to work, they work hard, they bring home a paycheck, they value their money. But a person who's a gambler, make the money quickly, lose the money quickly. So they're just not in touch with the rest of the world. Doesn't mean they're dishonest. It just means that they have a different value in there. They relate to time and money in a different way. And I should qualify, by the way, when you're looking for character in a person, when you want to identify the proper character, just as important as it is to identify the proper character traits in a person, it's important to identify compatible character with another person. If you value your money, and say you value money very, very much, you have to find someone who values their money in the same way. If you value your time and you're not going to go home and watch TV, whatnot, that's because you want to do other things with your time. You have to find someone who's compatible with you. You understand? So the first one is kisa, our pocket. What do we do with our time? What do we do with our money? The next one is stop and identify how a person gets when they're angry. Now, anger is a real tip-off. Everybody gets angry sometimes. Some people, when they get angry, they yell and scream. Some people become more passive-aggressive. Some people are quick to anger and quick to forgive. Some people are slow to anger, but once they get angry, whoa, hold on. They're not letting it go anywhere. They're going to hang on it to their dying day. And some people are very slow to anger, but when they finally do break, you know what? They forgive quickly. That's who we want to be, by the way. We want to be people that don't get angry very quickly. But we should look for a person, watch the situations in life when perhaps situations are not going the way they should. And you'll identify that in a very clear way. And the last point over here that Talmud brings out is because of the drink. How does a person behave when they're drunk? And it's interesting. How often are you going to go out drinking with a person that you're looking to be your soulmate? Well, it might be a lot, it might be a little, I don't know. But the Talmud does tell us that in goes the wine, out comes the secrets. There are some people who are very happy drunks, some people are not so happy, okay? But as important as it is to identify how often how a person behaves when they drink a little bit, it's how often do they engage in that kind of behavior. And again, this is not a judgment call. I'm not saying that it's bad to drink or it's good to drink. I'm saying it's important to identify, first of all, someone who has the character that when their guard comes down, they get happier and not mean. That for sure is true. And the next thing is you also have to monitor how often does a person require or need or desire to not just drink, but maybe a pill over here, a Valium over here, we'll go home, smoke a little grass over there. And Whatever it is, how often is a person trying to remove themselves? Do they need to solve on their pain that they experience in life? Are they trying to run away from things? You have to identify this. So these are different areas because they're indicative of a person's character. What are the character traits that we have to identify most? So I'll share with you. There's a few different character traits that I'd like to help you identify. And this, by no means, is an exhaustive list, but it's something to just point you in the right direction. So let me suggest that the first character trait we should really look out for is loyalty. See, loyalty means that I'm in it for the long haul. You do not want to bind yourself in a spiritual way with a person who views life as a lease and not a buy. You don't want to bind yourself with someone who, at a certain point, they're just going to get tired of you, or they're going to get tired of themselves or their life situation, or they just need to go off. Loyalty means that they understand commitment. You know, one time I'm speaking with a person, he says, Rabbi, I met the girl of my dreams. I mean, I'm in love with her. She's fantastic. I go, well, how often have you gone out? He goes, well, I've seen her like 4 times. That's great. I said, tell me, do you know what she's, what does she want to do? She wants to get married, have children. We're kind of like, it came up, we're not really sure. I go, does she understand the meaning of commitment, of what it means to really like stick with a person for the long haul? I don't know, maybe. What do you love about her? Her hair? Her eyes? Loyalty means that a person should have a connection with others that will be unbreakable. Loyalty is based on gratitude. So if a person, you want to look for someone who's grateful to those who've helped them, and then develops a bond and a loyalty to them that is in essence unbreakable. One of the ways to identify this is, what's a person's relationship with their parents? See, our parents, they took care of us when we were babies, changed our diapers when we were 2 years old, they fed us, they educated us. If you meet someone who has no relationship with their parents, then you have to look at them a little more carefully, because chances are you're not going to do more for their parents than the parents have done for them. And being grateful leads to loyalty. Doesn't mean that a person cannot be loyal if they don't have a relationship with their parents, but that's a flag. So you want to look for someone who has relationships, friendships over a long time, someone who exhibits that character trait of loyalty. Another one is integrity. Integrity means they have to be honest. They have to say what they mean. They have to mean what they say. You don't want to be with someone who's going to get angry one day and say, I hate you and your mother wears army boots. And then the next day says, well, why'd you walk out of the house? Well, you told me you hated me. I was supposed to believe you. See, if a person is too quick with their mouth, and they really don't have integrity with their mouth or with their actions, you don't know where you stand. You don't know where you can really, you don't understand what to take them seriously and what not to take them seriously. Now, by the way, I did receive a very good piece of advice from one of my rabbis. He said that, it will most probably happen one time or 20 that your spouse might get angry at you and might say something that really she doesn't mean. And you have to let that go like water off a duck's back. But that can't happen too often. And the reason it can't happen too often is because if she's too quick, or if he's too quick to say something negative and then recant it, then what about when they say, I love you? What about when they say something positive? Does that have the same staying power as the negative comment? So you want to look for somebody who has the character trait of balance, of stability, of that, it doesn't mean they won't ever get angry. No, they can get angry or frustrated. But also they have that ability, that character trait of a little more control and integrity, an understanding of, when I say something, I mean it. When I do an action, I mean the action. I'm not flying off the handle. Okay? The next one is kindness. Kindness is huge. Now again, if you were to go to most men and you say, so what are you looking for in a woman? They'd say, well, I'm looking for someone who's nice and pretty. And if you were to go to a woman and say, a lot of women say, what are you looking for? They'd say, I'm looking for a guy who's like really nice and successful. So nice is not kind, right? nice is a cheap imitation of kindness. We're looking for someone who can look at another person and say, how can I give that person pleasure? That's what kindness is. Kindness is when my mind is not wrapped up in me, my mind is wrapped up in you. One time I asked my rabbi, I said, when I advise people who are about to go dating, go look for, a person, look, someone who wants to find their soulmate, what should I tell them? He said, to prepare for that, people should look at others' faces and ask themselves, what's in that other person's mind? What are they thinking about? When you look at somebody's face, you know if they're only thinking about themselves, or you know if they're worried about life, or you know if they're thinking about other people. You can see it, you can tell a lot just by looking at a person's face, having a discussion, and then seeing where's their head. If they're concerned about other people, they're probably a kind person. But if they're only concerned with themselves, if they're only concerned with their issues and their pain, so then that might be a person that you probably want to stay a little far away from. And the last aspect of character, this is huge. You want to bind yourself with a happy person, someone who has gratitude, someone who's living life and feeling good, someone who makes you feel good. I guarantee you this, your soulmate is not somebody who makes you feel lousy about life. No, that's not your soulmate. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't ever criticize you. No, chances are, as we discussed last time, your soulmate will give you correction, will criticize you, will rebuke you. That's part of loving you. But generally, your soulmate is you want your soulmate to be someone who's a happy person. Now, as I always say, one of the best aspects, the best things, the most important ways to find the right person is to become the right person. So you should take these character traits, put them on a list, write them on a list and smack it on your bathroom mirror. So you look at them every day and you ask yourself, how am I doing in kindness? How am I doing in happiness? How am I doing in integrity? How am I doing in terms of loyalty? And then if you create a situation where you are working on these character traits yourself, then they'll be front and center in your mind. And when you're looking around the world and you see somebody, then boom, you'll recognize them. And if that person has also the aspect that they are physically attractive to you, and you just kind of enjoy spending time with them, you kind of have that chemistry, you're almost there. Don't go away. My name is Rabbi Wyne. You're watching Life is Great, and we'll come back in just a moment, and I'll share with you the final aspect about finding who your soulmate is. Don't go away. Okay, welcome back. Now it's time to do the 60-second character test. This is if you want to know how do you determine whether or not your potential soulmate really has the right kind of character. Well, it's pretty simple actually. Ask yourself, turn and say, do you want to be more like this person or less like this person? Because one thing you know is if you choose to spend your life with this person, you're going to become more like them. The next thing is, what if you had a child just like them? Would you be happy? And the third aspect is, if the person never changed their character, would you be okay with it? Understanding who you are and having that who you are match with somebody else, that is shared life goals. So this is the essence of what it means to be a soulmate. We're going to come back in just a minute with the Rabbi's Inbox, and we're going to talk about some of the red flags, some of the things that even though, you might have physical attraction to a person, but if you don't have common goals, you might have the right character, but you know what? It's not going to jive. It's not going to work. And the person might have the best character in the world, but if you're not physically attractive, it's also not going to work. We're going to talk a little bit about some red flags after you've lined up all these qualifications for a soulmate. What are some of the things that would knock the person off the map and disqualify them? All right, welcome back to the Rabbis Inbox. This is your opportunity to submit any question you'd like to me, and I will respond to you. All you need to do is send me an email to rabbi@therabbishow.com. So in the discussion of a soulmate, I always say don't fall in love. Choose to be in love. Identify first and foremost the kind of person you're looking for, and then dedicate yourself to developing a relationship with them. So I received an email regarding this topic that says, "Dear Rabbi, what happens if all of the qualifications you've enumerated to find a soulmate are present, but there's something wrong? What are some of the red flags I should look for?" Well, I will tell you something. There is a fantastic article that was found on meetmindful.com that I posted on therabbishow.com that really does a great job of illustrating these are the red flags you should stay away from. And one of them is that, you can go to therabbishow.com and you'll see the article, but just very briefly, some of the things that should be, stay away from this person is if they yell and scream a lot, if they have erratic changes in behavior, if they seem to live a double or a secret life. These are things that, it doesn't make a difference if you have a connection with them and you're physically attracted and they seem to have good character, although some of these things go against good character, and you have common goals, they will sabotage your relationship. You cannot trust a person that is not honest with you. So if you identify that there's just a big chunk of their life that they don't share with you, they're not lying to you, they're just not sharing with you things that you feel you need to know. Or if you feel that no matter how you behave, that one day out of the blue, they come up with something very, very strange. So these are the kinds of things that sabotage relationships. Amongst them would be a person behaving in a passive-aggressive behavior. These kinds of things. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Life is Great. I want to give you a blessing that you identify and find your soulmate. And let me know when it happens. Send me an email. I'm interested in it. And I want to welcome you to always come, if you're ever in Las Vegas, to join me here at Young Israel H of Las Vegas. And I promise to make you feel welcome at our beautiful synagogue. And we'll see you next time in Life is Great.
Want more wine? Turn your radio to AM 720 KDWN or go online to therabbishow.com to hear The Rabbi Show starting right after the news at 9 a.m.
So I'd like to encourage you today to go to therabbishow.com and make some kind of donation. Everything is appreciated in order to help us continue to spread these positive values and enrich and enhance other people's lives. Thank you.